Okay, guys, welcome back again. As you all know, I remain your boy, the Legend FS Academy, and today I will be covering what I call a trendline strategy. Without wasting much of our time, what I have, I've already highlighted some tips you need to know about trendline trader. If you want to be a trendline trader, not if you want to be a trendline, it is very important as a trader to understand the rudiment of trendline, because trendline will help you a lot in trading, So if you want to know how to trade trendline, or you want to be able to use trendline professionally, there are some tips you need to understand about trend line. This video, I'll be making this video part 1 and part 2, probably part 3, because if I intend to cover everything about trend line in this video, it will take me like an hour or more to cover up everything. So I'll be checking my time. Once I hit 15 or 20 minutes at max, I will cut this video, and I will do another one probably next week, the part 2, to cover up the remaining one if I did not cover it up. So with that being said, first and foremost, what do you need to understand about trend line? There are more of it, but I just highlighted a few for you guys. So if you want to be a trendline trader, first you have to know how many type of trendline we have. We have 4 type of trend line. The 4th one is not necessarily included, but I included the 4th one based on what I've been using. So the very first one is we have a very steep trend line, very weak and cannot be sustained for long. And I'll also show you the images, and I'll also show you how to use it. So don't worry, just flow along with me. So the second one is that we have a steep trend line, weak and not reliable. And the third one is we have a slope trend line. They are the most strongest trend line. Note, I will also show you this both in image and in drawing. The one I'm going to show you in drawing, in technical aspect of it. Then we have the 4th one, which we also have what we call a counter trend line. A counter trend line is a trend line against the trend. That is why I said it is not necessarily included, but I include it, and a lot of people is using it also. That is the 4th one. Then understanding this trend line and their factor, then again, let's move on. You have to know when a trend line is valid and when it's not valid. Because I see a lot of people, they don't really know when a trend line is valid and when a trend line is not valid again. So that is why I'm doing this video, to educate a lot of newbies to know when a trend line is valid and know when it's not valid, and how to use trend line properly as a trader. And a trend line is valid as long as it has not interceded significantly, and price continue to obey it. So what this means is that sometimes you may probably see when a candlestick will break below a particular trend line, and before you know it, it is a fake out, and the market will quickly reverse and start moving in its direction again. So that is what this particular one means. And I also, like I said, I'll also be showing you. This is just the theory part of it. But you can just write this down in your notes. When I was starting, I have all these things written down in my notes, so you can also do the same. So secondly, a trend line become invalid when it is interceded significantly, and this could mean that the trend has probably changed. So this one is about when the trend line is interceded significantly. I will also be showing you what that means as we proceed. So now, first, let's highlight what we call, we started by saying a steep trend line. Let me show you what a steep trend line means. You can see this is what we call a very steep trend line, very weak, cannot be sustained for long. This is what we call a steep trend line. And this kind of trend line is very weak. This is a textbook example, but I have also experienced it over and over again. If you have been watching my weekly analysis video I've been doing, you will be seeing me use trend line. I use trend line a lot in my video. If you have been watching my video, I cannot trade without trend line. You will know that I've been using a trend line, and I can tell you that where I got this particular image from, I read this book about 2 years ago, but then it didn't sync, it didn't play out. But as time goes on, with screen time, as I began to study more, trade more, everything now began to sink, and I began to see everything by myself, not textbook example again. I began to figure it out on the screen by myself that this kind of trend line, they don't hold for long. They can only sustain you for a very short time, and before you know, they will fade off. They are not very strong. And let me quickly go back to the other second one we have. Let me take this off. We've gotten what we need from this one. Let me take it off. Let me take it off. Okay. Now this is the second one. This is the second one. Is not clear, but we will manage it. You can see it. This is what they call steep trend line. Steep trend line are weak and not reliable. You can see the blue line from here. The blue line from here. They are not reliable. Because why? The way they are drawn, the way they are drawn, you can see that they didn't cater for a lot of chart data, so they are not reliable for you to hold on for a very long time. You can, if the only people that can use this particular one is scalpers and day traders. So if you're a scalper, you can capitalize on the small movement of a steep trend line and move. But if you are not a scalper, you are a swing trader. You don't want to be you don't want to be hoping on steep trend line, because they will fail you. They are weak and they are not reliable. So let me quickly bring this down and go to the last one we have, so that you will know. This is the last one we have, which is the most strongest. Remember what we said? We said we have 4. We have slope, we have steep, we have very steep, and this is the last one. This is what we call the slope trend line. This particular trend line, once you get this particular trend line is always valid, because you can see that it gathered this is from a daily chart. You can see that it gathered a lot of data here, and they are very strong and very reliable. So now, having said that, let's quickly move on. Let me take this on. I hope you've gotten the information now. We have the steep trend, very steep trend line. The first one here. We have the second one too here. Then we have the third one here. So let's move on. So now, first and foremost, how do you draw your trend line, and when a trend line is valid and when it's not valid again? So first and foremost, let's begin. I said I'm going to do this video part 1 and part 2. And should, in case we did not cover everything, don't worry, we will cover it in the part 2. So now, first, how do you draw your trend line? First, a lot of you know that for you to draw your trend line, you have to. Let me quickly. Sorry, guys, for those of you who doesn't really know, I'm using my phone. The reason being that my laptop got the screen got crashed. If you watch my video last week, you understand why. So that is by the way. So now, first, if you want to draw your trend line, let's say this is a very clear scenario of how markets move. This is a very clear scenario of how markets move. Market will make pull up, pull up, pull down. So now, for you to draw your trend line, we know that first you have to connect your first year. You must connect the first and the second. The first and the second will always be your guide. So now, the first and the second, this is the first touch. This is the first touch here, and this is the second touch here. So the third touch is always where you want to buy from. Are you getting my point? So the third touch is always where you want to buy from. The way we've been taught, we're told that whenever the market go to this particular touch, this is where we tend to buy from. This is where we tend to buy from. So now this is fine. So, but now I want to be teaching you how to know if a trend line is still valid and when it's not valid again. How do you know when this trend line is not valid? This is where the trick is, and it took me some time before I could be able to understand this. I told you guys that a lot, you have to understand a lot of things when you are practicing on yourself, when you are trading on yourself, and you are seeing how the market is reacting. Now, this is trend line per se. This is trend line per se. This is trend line. Now you can see that on this trend line, there's what we call the market is breaking structure. The market came here. Broke when he make this high, he put back, he broke this particular high, he make another high, he put down again, he broke this particular high, he made another high, he pulled back again, as long as the market is still breaking structure, this trend line intend to be still valid. So now let's say, for example, you know that the market, the just follow me carefully and understand me so that you will not miss it. So the market broke structure to the upside. And let's for example, this market now came down and do something like this, eh? And do something like this. I will not be interested to sell. Do you know why? Why is that? Because this market has already broken structure here. This market has already broken structure. So ideally, what this market intend to do is that it wants to come and take out liquidity. We call it stop loss run. So that is what this market wants to do next. So what this market will do next is now take out liquidity. Once the market take out liquidity, the next thing the market will do is that the market will shoot up and break another structure. So now, for you to know that when a trend line is no longer, when a trend line, this is how you can be able to know when a trend line is still valid. If a trend break a structure, something like this to the upside, and comes back and give you what we call a break of that trend line and close below it, as long as the market did not close below it significantly, something like this, just know that that trend line is valid. One, did the trend break a new structure on the trend line, on the slope trend line? That is what you have to be reading as a trader. Did the trend break a new structure? Yes, it did break a new structure to the upside. Then it came back to come and touch the trend line again, to touch it and shoot up again. Then it broke below it. The breakout is likely a fake out because one, it broke out, it has broken the structure first. And secondly, it's coming back to test the trend line. So this breakout now is likely to be a fake out in order for an amateur trader to jump in for a sell. And once they sell, the next thing you have to see is that the market will shoot up. You get the point now. So now, this is how to know. So how to know if a trend line is no longer valid again? Let me quickly show you how to know. Let's say, for example, this is our trend. Let's leave it there. This is our trend, and let's say, okay, the market is coming. This market is coming like this. Okay, this is our first touch, second touch, third touch. Ideally, this is your entry zone and everything. The market, this thing is too high. Let me just delete it and do another. I don't want it to be too high so that I can be able to explain everything in detail. So let's example that the market move up like this. The market shoot down again. It move up again. It broke structure, came down, broke structure. It may not be a perfect one, but just try and understand what I'm trying to explain. Broke structure to the upside, came down again. The trend is still valid. Okay, the trend is still valid because why? We are still breaking structure to the upside. The market broke another structure, broke the high, came down again to test. Sometimes let's just not do a textbook example. Sometimes you may see something like this, move up again, broke structure, then it comes back again. So now here comes the gist. When a trend line is getting more weaker, the market ideally is supposed to come and break this particular high. But in a case whereby the market now failed to take off this high and stop halfway, and the market does something like this, this is where you now want to keep your eyes on this particular trend line. Why? Because the market didn't have the momentum to take off this particular high. Note, right from where we are coming from here, the market is breaking high. But it got here, the moment it gathered a momentum from here to take off this high. But the momentum was not enough to take off this high, and the market started giving you this formation here. So this is where you now know that this particular trend is getting more weaker, and that the market can start that there is high probability that the market wants to change, because there was no any momentum again for this guy to take off this particular high. So this now come when you see something like this. You should now know that if you see something like this, there is 80% or 70% sure that this breakout is valid. You get my point now? Understand the difference. The first one was that the market was broken high. It came and make another, it came back to the trend line and shoot down. This one, the market could not even have the momentum to take off this particular high. There's a difference there. The market didn't have the momentum to take off this particular high, and the market stopped halfway. This is a sign of weakness. So understanding these two techniques now will guide you on how you can be able to trade. And I will be showing you also in the part 2 of this particular video, how to use a counter trend line. Now I've given you the example. You can watch this video again to understand it. I've given you the example. Now let's quickly go over to a chart so that I can show you that this is what I've been using to trade from day to day, from week to week, month to month. You can see that this is the one I call the counter trend line. This is the one I call the counter trend, which I'll be covering in our next class, in our second class. This is what I call the counter trend line. You can see that the market generally is in a bearish phase. Then we have this particular run up. As it's going, we'll put up our counter trend line, which is against the trend. Remember, we said a counter trend line is a trend line against the trend. Normally, this is our trend line. Let's say we want to get a trend line here. The trend line may not be perfect, but let's just, for example, we want to get a trend line here. Let's say we'll just tap in from here. Let's say we'll tap in from here. Let's say, okay, this is our trend line. It may not be perfect one. I'm just doing an example. I will still show you how to draw your trend line. Okay, let's say this is our normal trend line here. So this is our counter trend line. This is the trend line that this structure, this downtrend structure is obeying, and this is a temporal. This one is what we call a temporal trend line, which is a counter trend line, which I will be covering from our next class, how to use it, how to draw it, how to do other technical analysis with trend line. So you can see it. This is a counter trend line, and you can see that you can see that this trend line is more of a steep trend line, which is not very strong. Why? Because it's against the trend. You cannot have slope trend line against the trend. Understand it. If you should have a slope trend line against the trend, that means the overall trend line has changed. So this is a steep trend line. I know that steep trend line, they are weak and not reliable, and that is why we're having this counter trend line. Those are tips you need to know about trading counter trend line. Those are small tips you should understand so that it will enhance your trading performance. So we cannot have a slope trend line against the trend. If you have it, that means the trend automatically has changed, because a slope trend line is a very reliable and solid trend line which you can get from the daily. So in my next class too, I will also cover how you can be able to get it from is it 4-hour, daily, or 1 hour? Where is the perfect and accurate place to get a reliable trend line? So I will also cover it in the next class. So a steep trend line, which is this one, is not reliable. Why? Because at any given time, this market can break below. On this particular trade, if you follow my analysis, I caught this particular move. The moment this happened, I caught it, because I know for a fact that this steep trend line is not a reliable one. It can fail at any time once the confirmation is given. Okay, so and this was the example I made. I told you that you see the market came here, the market shoot up, came down, shoot up again. Okay, let me just use my part to analyze it for you so that you can understand. Okay, look at the market came here, came down, it make another high, it make another high. Let's just stop here. It shoot down a little bit. Then it made another high again. Then it shoot down a little bit. Ideally, he is supposed to come and make another high here to to show that this temporal uptrend is still valid. But for some reason, for weakness, the market failed to take off this particular high, and the market stopped halfway here. And what next did it do? The moment I saw this, I knew for a fact that the market is over, that the trend is over, that the market this guy didn't have any strength, any momentum again to come. As long as he couldn't take off this high, I know it is over. And that was when this guy started. I entered based on 1 hour, because 1 hour closed before this particular 4 hour, and from there the market bleed down. So this was the example I gave to you guys, and that is exactly what played out here. You can see the played out here, and I'm also waiting for this guy to also play that for me to go short. If this counter trend line can close below it, yeah, it has already given me the weakness which I need. This video has hit 20 minutes mark, so I will be stopping the video here to continue from next week. Sorry guys, it's just because, okay, this is not the one I want to use. Let me delete it. This is not the one I want to use. Okay, now you can see that the market start moving from here. The market, the moment it pull back, it will make another high. It make another high, it pull back, it make another high, pull back. It couldn't make another high from here, because there was a supply zone here from the daily time frame. He couldn't make another high. What he did was although the high was a little bit clear, he made the high, but the high was not significant to compare to this one. That is a sign of weakness also. But I didn't cut it. I was in a GJ trade. That is why I didn't enter. And because he moved with speed, and as of last week, there was a lot of uncertainty. So now the market started coming down again. Look at what he did here again. He moved up again. And you know that the structure now has changed. Assuming he wants to still continue going up, he would have just made something like this, but there was no strength again, confirming that this trend is now going. So if you see anything like this, a close of 4 hour, this is time for you to go short. So let me quickly switch over to daily back. So guys, I will be doing much of this trend line until we get it right. If you watch most of my video, you will see that I used trend line a lot. I use trend line a lot, most of my analysis. So guys, like I said before, I don't want this video to exceed 20 minutes, but it has already exceeded 20 minutes. Because a lot of people don't really like to watch long videos. So this is what I have for you guys. Next week we'll continue from the Trendline Strategy Part 2. I still remain your boy, the Legend FS Academy. Please, if you like the way I teach, please give me a thumbs up. And if you don't also like it, give me a dislike. I will also appreciate it. But tell me in the comment box below what to do to improve in my next video. As you all know, nobody knows it all. I'm here to learn. You're here to learn. You learn from me. I learn from you. Until we attain the level which I call the CPT, consistent profitable trader. I'm not totally there yet, and I know a lot of newbies also are not totally there yet. Why not join me for us to grind together until we attain the level? Please do subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm just trying to grow. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I will see you next week. Bye for now, and peace out.